Hey folks, welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster. This is your host, Will Carey. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you being here as always. It is late in the evening in August here in New York City. Fall is beginning to creep in, and not just because the pumpkin spice latte and cold brew coffee are coming back a bit prematurely, but it has been in the 70s and 60s the past couple days, which has been pretty a welcome reprieve from the blistering heat of this past summer. This has been one of the, I feel like since from July till about a week ago in August, I was just literally always covered in a thin film of sweat. I've been in Bangkok, Thailand. I've traveled in like Malaysia. I've been in some pretty humid places, and I was more comfortable there than I was in New York the past couple of weeks. But because segueing ever so seamlessly on the concept, on the idea of travel, because that is pretty paramount to today's episode. On the show today, comedian and illustrator Alex Ryu is my guest on today's show. We recorded this a while back, and me and Alex just had a really great chat about comedy and about creativity, and he had recently traveled to Japan. And if you have listened to the show recently, or ever at all, you'll hear me talk about the times I've traveled to Japan as being some of my favorite times traveling internationally. And you've heard me talk about like anime I like and et cetera, et cetera. But it's just, it's familiar enough, and also different enough, and it has a lot of things that I really enjoy. That being in Japan for the first time was calming and eye-opening at the same time, and I think about it a lot. And if you listen to my interview with Tim from Alistair when he talks about touring in Japan, that's the kind of experience I'm hoping for. And I don't know how I'm going to get this podcast big in Japan, but I would love to be the first English language podcaster that becomes super big in Japan. If I need to somehow adapt my like NPR like low-key radio style kind of voice to the concept of like a big, loud, colorful Japanese game show, I don't know how I'm going to translate that audio-wise, but I think it could work. But me and Alex talk a lot about our time individual times traveling in Japan, and we had a really great chat. And I'm excited to share it with you guys. If you enjoy this show and you think you know someone who might like it as well, please feel free to let them know. We are on everywhere you get your podcast, but Apple, Stitcher, and Spotify. If this is something else I'll do here. If you haven't yet, if you're able to take a second to leave a review of the show and a rating on Apple Podcasts, I would really appreciate it if you could do that, because that's something that helps build the organic reach of the show. I know that's super douchebaggy kind of marketing jargon I'm speaking, but you guys are my biggest help in getting other people to hear this show. And the more people that hear it, the more I can attract the kind like other guests and like get certain people to want to talk to me. But you guys I'm really thankful that you guys tune in and listen to the show. And even if I don't hear from you guys, if you guys feel free to shoot me a message at Comic Will Carry on Twitter. I'm pretty easy to find, and the Patreon has had a good initial launch, and I'm doing some really interesting exclusive stuff over there. So you can check out patreon.com/awesomedisaster for more stuff over there. And let's go to my chat with comedian Alex Ryu. I had heard the atmosphere at Japanese sporting events is super festive, so I was excited to see that, and it did not disappoint. It was really fun.
Do they get loud?
They get real loud, and all the chanting is coordinated, and it changes on a dime, and there's big flags and drums. Yeah. It's like they've taken they've probably looked at like European atmosphere, European soccer leagues and South American soccer leagues, and are emulating that atmosphere, but in like an organized way.
Yeah. Like I've never watched a soccer game in Asia, but like I watch a lot of fights, and for a long time, it might be different now, but for a long time, the audience it's very different from the U.S. where we're all like screaming like, yeah, fucking kill him. They're like, oh, clap. It's like,
exactly.
Nice knockout, good submission.
Yeah, I hear.
Funny.
I think that's what I think professional wrestling is like that. They the audience is very like, oh, that's good.
Yeah,
well done,
yeah,
well
a
done.
lot more clapping.
Yeah, it's like a respectful admiration of the technique instead of a license to become primal.
Yeah, because everything is so like precise, and everything is about like skill and how good you could do things. I don't know. That was my impression of Japan when I was in Tokyo, and
yeah, you were there. You were there recently. So you were in Tokyo, and where else?
Tokyo and Kyoto.
Ah, cool.
Tokyo, yeah, those are the main places. Spent about a week in Tokyo and a week in Kyoto, and then just traveled around from there. Yeah, that was really interesting. That was really cool. We took the bullet train down to Kyoto, so that was an experience. That was crazy. Yeah,
like it goes like. You're just there,
I think
like
it was
super
like
fast.
3 hours, maybe a little over 3 hours from Tokyo to Kyoto.
Wow.
And like we were looking into other options. Is like there was that, and then there's also a bus you could take, but the bus takes like 8 or 9 hours. So it was like, oh no.
Yeah. Do the bullet train.
Like we couldn't
Absolutely.
burn a day.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. How is Kyoto? How's the vibe like there? Tokyo, I felt like very comfortable in because it felt comparable to New York, kind of like a busy city.
Tokyo was very much like I felt very much like it was like just a bizarro world New York where things were just cleaner and like
and quieter,
quieter, and everything just worked perfectly. To my surprise, it was weird, kind of. I was still in like New York mode, but then you would do things where like taking the subway, right? Like in New York, when you have to go somewhere on the subway, there's like a part of my brain that's like, damn it, public transportation, I don't know if I want to deal with this right now. But then over there, everything works so smoothly.
Yep.
Like I would initially have that thought, I was like, oh, we got to make a transfer here. But then once you get in the subway, it's like, oh, it's coming in 30 seconds as it should. And it's like everything is just perfect and seamless, and I was amazed.
Yeah, and you can buy a soda from a vending machine that's on the platform with your subway card.
Yeah,
that was amazing. And
that
also
blew my mind.
and also you can buy a soda machine, but there's no trash on the platform at all.
Well, it's frowned upon. I learned that it's frowned upon to walk around with like an open beverage or any kind of food or anything like that. Like in Japan in general. So like I was looking around. My wife told me this. And I was looking around, and nobody walks around with their food. They just like eat it they buy it, they eat it on the spot, and throw it away right there. Or else, and like me, I was dumb. I'm just like, carrying like handfuls of trash everywhere I went because there's no trash cans either.
Yep,
that was the other thing. That
yeah. I had heard that after the sarin gas attacks, they got rid of all the trash cans in Tokyo. Well, that I have no idea if those are actually related or not, but that's just what I had heard. The other thing I kind of felt, and I don't know if you experienced this, but Japan, I feel overall is kind of a polite society. So no one was like running up to me because I'm so tall, but I definitely caught people like sneaking pictures of me.
Oh yeah. Me, not so much because of how I look,
of course,
but more of, I was there with my family. My wife is white.
Right.
And my kid is half white. So like when we were all together, like, definitely it wasn't a common sight, I guess. So, and especially since we were talking or speaking in English to each other.
Sure.
So like, you get a lot of like eyeballs on you, and some people trying to like sneak pictures and, whatever.
Yeah.
But it was interesting.
Yeah. And is Kyoto like, do you feel like Kyoto compared to Tokyo is kind of like a chiller vibe?
I think so. It was a little quieter.
Yeah.
A little quieter. Everything shuts down a little earlier. But there's it felt more like there were more historic things around Kyoto.
Yeah,
like we visited like I don't even know how many different temples and shrines and things like that. It's all over the place. It was really cool. It was real chill.
Yeah, that's awesome. I find I desperately don't want to be like one of those like white people that's super into Buddhism or like Eastern religions, but going and visiting like temples in Japan, I found very relaxing.
Yeah.
The same way, like I was in India and Nepal back in March, and the Holi festival was being celebrated while we were in Nepal. Are you familiar with that?
I am not familiar.
It's called the Festival of Colors. It's basically like the reset for the year, and everyone buys colorful bags of powder and smears colorful powder all over their faces.
Those pictures, yes.
They throw it in the air and they smear it on strangers. Like they wouldn't do it. They ask first, but so my fiance and I were on this group tour and with a bunch. We're the youngest people on this tour by like 30 years, and we were just like, I was like, people were coming up and I was like, "Hit me, come on!" And taking my glasses off, like, "Come on, get!" And it was. I had never felt like more. My spirit had never felt lighter than those kinds of moments.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of that. I didn't know what that was called or what it was, but yeah, it's crazy. It's just so colorful and just people just go nuts with colorful powder.
Oh yeah. It's a wonderful time. If you ever are planning, if you ever want to thinking about going to India or that area,
definitely am.
Definitely coordinate it during that time.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Apparently, I thought like India would have been very popular for tourism because of Eat, Pray, Love, but apparently they don't get a lot of
people are
visitors.
Scared. People are scared because people still like me too. Like people from here going over, they're always like, "Oh, the water, and you're gonna get sick," and I think like. It just scares people. It scares me. I don't know.
Well, I mean, most restaurants do use filtered water, and my travel philosophy is always, I've had diarrhea before. I will have diarrhea again in America.
Right. And that's like the least of like the bad illnesses. You just have to sit on the toilet for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you feel better.
Yeah. You just make it work. It's part of the gig. Have you traveled to a lot of other places?
Not really. I'm not a huge. Like until I got married, like my wife is huge on traveling. She travels everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And until we got together, I never really traveled too much, not even outside the country. Last year we were in Iceland. That was awesome.
Cool.
That was a cool experience. And that was cool for a different reason because it's just unlike anything that you see in a city.
Yeah.
It's just it's just all like this crazy nature with like waterfalls all over the place. And you feel like you're in a weird, like, driving through a movie set that just goes on forever. Yeah,
that's cool.
It was pretty wild. Yeah,
that's awesome. I've always wanted to go to Iceland. That's definitely on my list.
Definitely recommend it.
Yeah. I want to go there, and I would love to go to like there's a bunch of others Southeast Asia countries I want to hit up.
Sounds awesome.
Like Cambodia, Philippines, like Laos, all those places.
Yeah.
So. Where did you grow up? You say you didn't travel too much. Did you ever think you were going to when you were younger, or was that sort of always just like a dream?
I think it was always kind of more like a dream. Like everything was like all the travel destinations were all like big bucket list destination. Like Japan and Iceland, and it was like it just seems so far out there. And like my family, we didn't go on too many big vacations. We went to like Korea a couple times. That's where my family's from.
Right.
And but like everywhere else, we didn't do too many big family vacations because like both parents were working all the time, and
totally
things. Yeah.
What did your folks do?
My mom was an office manager for a shipping company for a while. This is in Dallas, where I spent most of my adolescence. Okay. And my dad was a chiropractor, maybe still is. I'm not sure. I'm not too close to my dad.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way with my dad. Like we like he loves me, I love him, but we're at the point because we're starting to repair some stuff, but we're just like, hey, nice. How's it going? Okay, cool. We're because again I tend to become a more stereotypical emotionally shut down man around him, but
I think it's the same with me. It might be it might be just like the male ego thing. Yeah. Or, it's like, two adult guys. Now, I don't know how I haven't seen my dad in so long. I don't know how I'd act around him. Yeah.
And they're originally from Korea? Or
they're originally from Korea. My mom moved here in high school and my dad came in college. So, and then they were just
from like Seoul or from like rural?
Like not sure. I want to say
Gotcha.
Seoul.
That's the only city I know.
Yeah, that's like the biggest city, so I want to say yeah.
Yeah.
But
I didn't know this. Apparently South Korea is the country that listens to the most podcasts.
really?
Yeah, like only 33% of the American population has listened to a podcast in the last month, but it's 58% in South Korea.
58% of their population listens to podcasts.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Apparently they also have the fastest internet in the world. Apparently they drink the most.
Oh yeah, Korean people drink a lot. I don't.
Yeah.
I can't control my liquor.
I can't either. I have an Irish sounding last name, and I'm 3 drinks and I'm taking a nap.
Yeah, you're like so big and
Exactly.
you look like a guy that, like, you'd walk into a bar and everyone would just challenge you to a drinking contest.
Yeah, but I have no tolerance whatsoever. My fiance can drink though. She has like a history of working in politics, so they go hard.
Yeah.
You know, you're working on a campaign 17 hours a day, and then you're just like, you know what, I need a drink now.
Yeah, I think it's a big cultural thing too in Korea and in Japan too. That's another thing. Did you see like the drunk people in Japan when you were there?
Uh-huh.
Like the drunk businessmen just like passed out on the street.
Yep.
That's like totally commonplace and like I guess borderline acceptable over there. To just see like a guy in a suit with his briefcase just like passed out on the side of the street somewhere because he was just too tired to get home that day.
Yeah.
But I think like yeah, it's part of the culture where you have to drink with your coworkers and just get completely shit faced.
Yeah, that's part of the like socialization. Like, and that it makes total sense why they sell dress shirts at convenience stores.
Yeah,
like at 7-Eleven or Family Mart. Yeah, they do.
Oh, Family Mart was a shit.
Fucking Family Mart is amazing,
dude.
It is the greatest convenience store in the world.
The Family Chickie.
I go hard for Family Mart. I love that place. Every time I see one, I'm just so happy.
That was the part of my Japan trip where I felt a little weird being that way because I would seek out every time I'd see a Family Mart, I was like, oh, I want to get a piece of fried chicken over there. Like it's like 125 yen, which is like $1 for fried chicken, and it was so good.
Yeah, it's amazing. Or one Family Mart I was at in Taiwan had like the like snack sweet potatoes or these really tasty like they're almost like white grape flavored Mentos.
Oh,
but they're softer, and that was the first time I'd ever seen a orange Coke.
Orange Coke.
Orange Coke. There's orange vanilla Coke now, but they have orange Coke in Japan.
It's not like Fanta?
No, it's not like Fanta. It's
brown?
Coca-Cola. It's Coca-Cola. Brown liquid's brown, hint of orange flavor. It's quite nice.
Nice? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds weird.
Yeah, because I don't drink so much, I'm always paying attention to the soda wherever I travel. Oh, dude, I never thought I'd get to talk about Family Mart. This is so great.
I think that was like that's what kind of defined the food experience in Japan. Because like you know, we're from New York, so I felt like I've had really good food here in New York, and I think like pound for pound, New York probably has the best food in the world. So it's hard to go anywhere and be like, oh my god, this was so impressive. Like I found it hard to be impressed by the food they had, the really good food. But then like when you like take it down a level to like where how do the shitty foods compare, right? Like we have our dollar slices and they have their family, like their convenient food, store food just like blows ours out of the water.
100%.
It was just amazing. I was like, oh man, I could just go here every day.
Yeah, you go to the basement of a shopping mall and you're just like, oh my god,
those were insane.
Yeah,
where it's just like an entire floor just full of like pastries and
full of pastries and like takeaway katsudon.
Yeah.
And, it's amazing, dude. I'm just the like casual like grab and go food is just on point. Yeah. They've got it dialed in. It's so good.
One thing I thought was so interesting about Japan is that I found it hard. I never ate healthy there. Mm-hmm. Like I ate just like a shit ton of like pastries, noodles, and just salty chicken and fried stuff. And like you know, like they're one of the healthiest nations in the world, right? Like like people live for a very long time over there, and like about a week in, I was eating so much crap. I was like, oh, I kind of want a salad. You can't just find a salad like you do here. Like I was like, oh man, you can't find a salad. You can't even find fruit. That's like just like all the time. Like you can find it, but
Yeah, it's not as ubiquitous.
Yeah, exactly. Like I would go into grocery stores and they wouldn't just have like a fresh produce and fruit section like I would imagine. I mean, I didn't go to every store, but yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Talking about the drunk businessman thing, like if there's like one sort of like lost in translation cultural kind of fantasy I have, it's to ingratiate myself with a group of salarymen and just party all night.
Yeah.
I think
they'd probably go nuts.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
And then so Dallas, how did you like growing up there? I've been to Austin, so I don't know what Texas is like.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think I've spent the least amount of time in Austin of all the cities that I've been to in Texas. But Dallas is nice. Dallas is nice. I liked it. I think I don't know, like living in New York, I think people have a weird view of Texas in general. Texas that's not Austin, in general. So it's like but Dallas is fun. It's just like any other big city, really. There's a lot, if you're a sports fan, you'll have a lot of fun there.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Good food.
Cowboys, FC Dallas.
FC Dallas
have a really good fan base. I think there's a comedy club in Dallas. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few. There's like Addison Improv, and then I think that's the big one, right?
Yeah, I think
that was the big one when I wasn't doing comedy when I was in Dallas, but yeah.
Yeah. So you're growing up in Dallas, and this is something I like to ask. What kind of, because I was definitely like the theater geek archetype for when I got to high school. Who were you in high school?
I was an artist.
You were an artist.
Yeah, I drew. Yeah, I drew drawing and painting. That's what I do now. I'm an illustrator.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Who are some of your favorite visual artists? I'm so sorry to keep interrupting, but what's somebody that like really blew your mind when you first saw their work?
I don't know. I mean, like just like the obvious, like Picasso, Matisse. Like that's kind of what I like learned on when I was like first introduced to art. So those guys were always like huge influences. And then like around 16, 17, I started really getting into comic books. And that's when I discovered guys like Alex Toth, Jordy Bernay. These are more like old school, like black and white guys. And I just like Hugo Pratt. I don't know if you know of him.
I don't think so.
Yeah. They're like, I really fell in love with that stuff. And that's
awesome. I love black and white illustrations. Like my favorite manga is all in black and white, and there's just something about the contrasts of the white page against the black of the ink. I just find so visually appealing.
Yeah, it's really it's different. It's like you see a different perspective. You get a different sense of the work when you take the color off of it, and like it's
that's great. Yeah. So that was like your first that was your like first creative outlet.
Yeah.
Was visual art.
Yeah, that's basically who I was in high school. Yeah. It's just
I'm seeing it now. We would have been friends in high school.
Yeah, I think we would have.
Yeah. Cuz I was the kid who was like dyeing his hair, and I was in this place.
Did you skateboard?
I didn't skateboard. I mountain biked.
Oh, okay.
And I started playing guitar, and I played bass.
Yeah.
So I would be like, hey Alex, can you do a logo for my band ZP?
Yeah,
that's who I would have been. That's who I would have been.
Yeah. There's a lot of that.
Yeah. There's just something to like that's good because that's about around the time I found like my thing also, like sophomore year of high school, because I was lost up until then. Like I didn't know what I was gonna do. I didn't have the thing that I was like super excited to work hard on and for long hours and be exhausted after and feel happy. And then theater was that thing. So for you, it was visual art. And
visual art. Because I was real like, I was real outgoing with my friends, but like at that time, it's like being on stage doing like that was like, nah, I just behind the scenes, let me draw and show you my picture. That was it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's kind of how I feel with this, because I have a very like I want attention for certain things, or I want no attention at all, and I want to blend in. Yeah. So this is sort of my way.
Most creative types are like that in some way. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I think like podcasting and visual art, I feel there's some similarities because you can be behind the scenes and the center of attention. Like you can do a good piece and it can be hanging somewhere, and someone go, "Oh yes, this is." Excellent use of dynamic foreshadow. I don't know art terms. And then you're just offside going like, I did that. And then the same way, like I can like look at, people are listening to this. Like, my listeners in Tanzania picked up this episode. Well done. Good.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I love that global aspect of it. Like, I feel like whenever I turn on the news, people use the word globalist as like a negative thing, but I know they're using it a very specific way. But the idea of like, because I never thought I was gonna like leave my hometown, and then to the fact that I've been fortunate enough to get to travel as much as I have.
Your hometown is where?
I am from Southern Maryland. I'm from about an hour and a half south of DC. I'm from St. Leonard, Maryland. 800 people. It's very small. This is a fun joke I do whenever I call my mom, because the Route 2 and 4 cut goes through that's the road I take to get to my mom's house, and that turns into Pennsylvania Avenue if you stay on it. So I like to call my mom and go, "Mom, can you stop your neighbor, please? He's really bumming me out." or back when Obama was president, I'd be like, "Mom, your neighbor is so cool." Did you go to college in Texas, or did you?
No, I went to college here. That's how I ended up back in New York. I was actually born in New York City.
Really?
Soon after I was born, my parents moved out to California, and I lived there in like Orange County till I was about 10. Moved to Texas. Okay. Yeah, and then
gotcha.
Came back here, and then
So you're kind of you've kind of
make
East
weird,
Coast, West Coast,
upside down triangle thing.
Yeah. How is Orange County? I hear Orange County is kind of like the like Republican stronghold of California.
Is it?
That's what I've heard.
I have no idea.
I've heard Bakersfield's a little rednecky. Could be wrong.
Well, Bakersfield's far away from where I was living. I think that was a few hours away.
Yeah.
I lived in most of my family is in a city called Irvine. I don't know if
I know Irvine.
Yeah, they have some comedy clubs there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I don't know if maybe I'm not very big into that kind of thing. Yeah.
I've spent a little bit of time in California. I like obviously the big cities, but there's this sort of like creeping fear of suburban California that it just reminds me of where I grew up, and I'm like, I could feel like.
In what way though?
Just the calm of it, I guess.
I think that's what got to me. I tried moving back out there after immediately after college. And I was like, because I'd been in New York for 4 years at that point. I was like, all right, I need a break from the city.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go out to California, enjoy some good weather, be back with my family. And then it lasted about 3 months where I was like relaxing, and all of a sudden it just hit. I was like, why is everything so slow? It's like why does everything take 2 hours? It's just everything was starting to annoy me, and I was like, I would be saying that everywhere, like in traffic. I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I had to come back.
Mm-hmm. That I feel that every time I go to, my fiance is hilarious because she's born and raised in Brooklyn, so she literally can't function in like suburban America for longer than 2 days.
Oh wow.
She starts to get a little restless.
That's how my wife is.
Yeah.
Yeah, whenever we go back to visit my family, she's like, after a couple of days, she just like gets all antsy and like, what are we gonna do?
It's like, what's the plan? I'm like, well, we're doing nothing. Well,
there's a nice
what's
sofa
that
here? It's just
yeah. My dad's he's got cable, and my stepmom maybe will accidentally say something kind of anti-Semitic, but we'll roll with it.
That's funny.
So you leave Dallas, you come back to New York, and what year is this approximately?
2003.
2003.
Yeah, 2003. I graduated high school 2001. I took a little time off, and then decided I do want to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
So then came back to New York, went to school, and
Cool. And you went for illustration. Was there?
Yeah, for illustration.
And what was the plan?
I have no idea what
the
plan was at that time. I was just like, this is what I'm good at. This is like the only thing I like doing besides video games, and I'm not going to get a job playing video games. So,
yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah.
You don't want that job. It's
Yeah.
not a very good job. Did you? I don't. This might feel kind of niche. There was like a reality show called Tester to get a job as a video game tester.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds horrible.
But that's like a horrible job.
Yeah, because you know how many bad games there are in the world.
Yeah,
and you have to play those, and yeah.
You have to. You got to play. You probably won't get to play good games. It's minimum wage or not a ton of money.
You can't be getting paid that much.
It's not a ton of money, and then every time, and you're playing a unfinished game, so every time the game breaks, you got to write a report.
Yeah,
that doesn't.
That can't be fun.
That doesn't sound like sounds like an over romanticized aspect of the industry. Video games, like God bless people who are passionate enough to program them, because the end product is fun, but the getting there sounds like it sucks.
You hear about like how many years certain games take, and it's just like, man, thank God you're doing it.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I will spend $60 on that, on this.
Well worth it.
Yeah. So you graduate college, and the plan is to stay in New York.
Yeah. I mean, after college, initially the plan was to go back to California, and that kind of just didn't work out. And then so I came back to New York, and yeah, that was it. Came back and stuck. I got married, had a kid, and my wife doesn't want to leave New York, so we're here. Yeah. So
that's pretty lucky. How'd you meet your wife?
We were both studying Japanese. She was studying Japanese. I was starting to, and I found a language exchange program online that a friend turned me on to, and she was using that as well. And then, like, in the beginning, it's kind of anonymous, but then like it came out somehow that she was in New York City. So I'm like, oh hey, let's just hang out sometime, and that's kind of how that worked.
Oh, that's cute.
And then I stopped studying, and yeah.
Okay, so you can't speak Japanese?
No, I don't speak any Japanese.
Yeah,
I'm horrible.
I'm kind of the same. I know a couple of phrases and things I've picked up from anime, but that's about all I got.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like the only reason I wanted to learn was because it's one of my big dreams to have a comic book out in Asia, in Japan, and Korea. So I was like, oh, I might as well, like, I'll try to learn some Japanese. Maybe I could, figure something out and, print a book in Japanese. That'd be kind of cool.
That would be cool.
Because there's a big comic book culture over there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. I'm gonna nerd out again. So in Tokyo, there's a place called the Mandrake Complex in Akihabara. That and I think you might have, I can't remember if you tweeted this or if someone else did, but something about like, if you're lost in Tokyo, don't ask the white person because they know where they're going there also. Yeah. And I think I chimed in. Yeah. It's true. So there's this like 8-floor like anime video game complex called Mandrake in Akihabara. So I went in there, went up to the 8th floor, and it's just a treasure trove. I bought like so many manga because I'm a big fan of Sword Art Online, which is this franchise that you people either love or I'm apparently gay for liking, according to the internet. So I just went up to the counter and said Sword Art Online. And he points it out to me, and I bought like a stack of stuff that's like never going to get translated to English because it's like the kind of fun. How do I read it?
Yeah.
Well, what I mostly just read it for the artwork.
Okay, you could read by looking at the artwork.
Yeah, and I try to kind of piece out things that are going together. And I tried doing this. I took a picture of the page with, and then tried to run it through Google Translate.
Did that work?
Not really. A couple of pages worked decently, but I'm just like at it for the artwork.
Yeah.
But like I got a big stack, and they're like the equivalent of like $3 each, whereas in America they'd be like $14.
Yeah, those manga comic books that, like, if you go to Kinokuniya or whatever, they're like $14.
I know.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
How'd you even get into that if you can't if they don't translate that into English? Or do they have a series that they translate into?
There are series that are translated they translate like the main things that have been like adapted for the anime into English, but then they have a lot of other stuff that's just kind of either that either hasn't been translated into English yet, because it can take a long time to get this stuff released in English.
Very true.
And then there's lots of stuff that I think is a little bit more fan servicey or silly. That's like not considered canon. So I was like, I'm a completist. I have like a weird sort of like OCD where if I start a thing and I really love it, I got to get all of the things.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
So that place was super, super fun. And then the big arcade that has the Space Invader on it.
Yeah. What is it? It's like Taito City or something like that. They're like one of the big publishers out in Japan too. They make a lot of those arcade games.
Yeah, and I definitely had some fun there. Super Potato, I think, is another
Super
place.
Potato is like the famous like retro game spot.
Yeah. I went there and I played some old school Metal Slug.
Nice.
While people were smoking.
Yeah, dude, people just smoked everywhere.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
And again, it's still so clean.
Yeah,
I feel like
there's just no trash anywhere. It's clean to the point where I started realizing like how much I started like missing how dirty New York was in a weird way. Like I started realizing like how much trash was a part of me. You know what I mean? It's like, this is like a little too it was like creeping me out a little bit. It's like, where's the trash? And
it's like overly clean. Yeah. I think if we gave New York City to the country of Japan for like a year, it would look so much better.
Yeah, but then like as soon as we came back, we would just destroy everything.
I agree. That's why I think like whenever people bring up laws and stuff that have worked well overseas, I'm just thinking that's a great idea. But like the people who live in the United States, even the people I like, would totally fuck that up. Yeah,
people. I mean, because like you're kind of set in the way that your culture is built in, right? It's like over there, like they had no trash cans because like I think like the idea is that like if there are no trash cans, people won't like put trash all over the place. And it works over there. Whereas here, it's like if there's no trash can, people are just gonna start throwing things on the floor.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like like look in Brooklyn, like in some of the bad areas that don't have trash cans. It's like there's just shit all over the place.
All over the place.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's like I feel like it's. Most people I feel are inherently will be respectful of another culture, so they won't throw stuff on the floor when they're traveling or visiting somewhere. But if you inconvenience them where they live, I think people will rebel.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I also think Tokyo subway should take over the MTA, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
So you were married and had a kid before you were a comedian.
Yes.
Now, how does that conversation go? Because, and here's why I ask this. So when my fiance and I met, I had been a comedian for a while, and it was an adjustment process for me to go from going out doing stand up every single night, being out very late, to working smarter and not harder, and then also trying to be there for her. And a couple of my other friends were like in relationships and then started doing comedy, and she is always like, oh, how do they deal with that stuff?
Yeah.
Like, so I'm curious, how did the idea to do stand up come about? Were you always a fan of stand up, or did that come later?
I was always a fan of comedy. I didn't know stand up was a thing that you could just do. You know what I mean? For a long time.
Right.
I thought stand up was for celebrities. That's what Chris Rock does and Dave Chappelle does. You know, and there's like certain few people that do it. And like, you know, if you're not one of them, then, you know, what are you doing?
Right.
I didn't know how it worked. And then one day I found out like, you could just go to an open, you can just start doing stand up. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I always like funny things. I like writing jokes. And I think the big thing was that I've always been a storyteller. I do comic books and I love writing stories. And to me, like stand up and jokes are just like little mini stories you tell people, right?
Yeah.
Each joke is just a mini story and you tie them all together and create a bigger story. And that always interested me. So that's how I kind of got into it. Like I got the idea to start doing it. As far as how'd that work with me starting after being married and having a kid? Yeah, it was weird. It was weird because could you imagine? It's like I kind of didn't know how to tell. It sounds kind of like a stupid thing to say, right? It's like, hey, I'm gonna be a comedian now. You know, it just sounds like a weird. Yeah, I didn't know what to say. I was like, I think I want to try this thing, and I was like, really?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
and how is she?
She was supportive of it. Yeah, she was like, all right, you can give it a shot.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, give it a shot, see how it goes, and the whole thing with what you were saying about working smarter, not harder. Like I was a little older. I was 28 when I started. This is in 2012, and so I was already a little older than a lot of the other guys that were doing it. There's some really young guys like 21, 22, and that was already instilled in me to work smarter, not harder. And you know, with a family and all that, trying to figure that out. And
you have to be a little bit more thoughtful, like the risk reward
right
balance becomes, because when I was younger, I feel like I would put myself through a lot more indignities when it comes to like auditioning for things, or you know, certain shows and stuff.
Yeah, because you have the time, like, you know, no one's waiting on you, and you know, it's a little different.
Yeah. It's a good problem. It's a good problem to have though, because I definitely, the idea of like someone like, oh, when are you going to be home and it's because, oh, I want to know when I should order or if I should cook.
Right. It's because they love you.
Yeah.
you have love at home. That's why. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it took a long time for me to feel worthy of that.
Yeah.
Which is fucked up sounding, but it feels real. So so you started in 2012.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to think. So I got here in 2009. So the places I was going to, I would go to the Creek, but it was like an hour away from where my first apartment. The Perch Cafe in Park Slope, New York Comedy Club open mics. I remember those. Club. Yeah.
There was also Broadway, and Creek was the first place I did open mic.
Oh yeah,
I think it was a Thursday. It was May 10th, I believe. Yeah, May 10th, 2012, and that was the first place I went to. I went the day before, and just to check it out. You know, to scope it out, to see like what it was going to be like, and then you know the Creek.
I do. It's
brutal. Back then it was like pretty brutal.
It's oh my god. When I first started going to the Creek,
upstairs room.
Yeah. And when I first started going to the Creek, it was not the kind of, the open mics were not as welcoming as they are now.
Yeah. Now they're super friendly. Yeah. Everyone's super nice over there.
Yeah. But I think I was because I got to New York right at the tail point where a lot of people we know now in the comedy scene were like just about to like start getting breaks.
Right.
Like I think Mike Lawrence was just about to just got on TV, just got Montreal, and
like Michelle Wolf,
Mike Racine, Jake Young. I remember I was seeing him a lot. Andy Hayes.
Crazy. That's the craziest thing about stand up. It's like, man.
Yeah,
made it.
I know.
It gives you so much hope.
Yeah. Well, also to think that, and I said this to someone else, but to think that a woman who was like calling my name to do 2 minutes at the Pit open mic is now being personally attacked by the president.
Dude, it just blows your mind, right? Like
what?
Yeah, like how do you get to that level? Like, that's not even. No, that wasn't in the plan. We're just getting told jokes on stage.
We were like maybe we were all thinking, oh, maybe we'll do late night or get like an hour, be able to tour for like a couple of years on that special, and Ben's like being attacked by the president.
Personally, that's so
like
crazy.
Called out by name.
That is the craziest thing.
Yeah, saying like you're not funny. You're part of the problem. Like holy shit.
Can
you imagine if you woke up tomorrow morning to the president saying, "Alex,
dude, opening
suck."
Your Twitter and just seeing that tweet like directly like towards you. That's so crazy.
Oh, I would print it out and get it framed.
Dude, that's like the ultimate. That's like the ultimate hater.
Yeah,
that's like
100%.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. So the Creek is probably where I met you. I'm trying to think some of the other places that we've run into each other.
We've run into each other a few times. The Creek. I did your show at the Creek.
Yes, you did.
When was that? That was like couple of years ago even.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years now. We hit 2 years, and then I was just not on the calendar anymore. Yeah, it happens. Yeah, but I don't mind.
Yeah, we ran into we would run into each other just like sporadically at whatever show or open mic we were both at or whatever event. And one of the things that I remember, I don't know if you ever remember, we had a conversation like, have you ever been to the Cellar yet? Comedy Cellar, just to go see a show?
No, I haven't.
You still haven't been to the Cellar?
I think I walked in once, but it was sold out.
Yeah. I remember because like one of the conversations when, I think this was early on when I was like kind of getting started, you'd mentioned that you'd never been. And at that time, like I'd been like once and I was like, oh, hey, let's go to the Cellar. And every time I saw you, I was like, does he still remember that we said that we should go to this? Yeah,
I'm sorry,
we never did. No, but like I'm as guilty too because I'm like, oh well, I shouldn't bring it up.
Yeah. Well, if some night we're free, we can go to the Cellar. I'm down.
Yeah.
I'm down.
I haven't seen a show there since forever.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy to me now. Like Eagle Wit is there now. And Nick
like Usama's there.
Usama. I just had him on. That was a great chat. Nick Callis, I just did an episode with, and he just got past there. So that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I love seeing that kind of thing.
Yeah,
seeing the guys that you kind of like saw at open mic. Like, oh man, you guys are doing shit.
Yeah, so it's pretty it's pretty inspiring. Now, did you ever like produce shows or what? I'm trying to remember if you ever produced a show anymore.
Not then. Like right now, I'm producing a show with Koshin Egal. You know?
Yeah, I know Koshin.
Yeah. So me and him are producing a show in the Lower East Side. Nice. We've been doing that since about December.
Cool.
But yeah, that's
That's a strange animal. The producing side of it.
It's the first time I've been on that side of it, and it's a big learning experience. Yeah.
Yeah, all that pressure of like just I hope people.
Every show you're like, oh man, no one's coming.
Yeah,
and then I have to explain to these like 8 people, thinking that they're gonna be on a show.
That's why. Well, that stuff doesn't bother me because there's like New York is just such that kind of strange animal where like really. Even like really well-known people, like if you don't have a spot at the clubs, like really well-known people doesn't draw a name. It's so crazy to me. And like, you know, Emily Winter is like a producing genius. I think she's doing really cool things, but I just whatever ingredients to, because when I was running my show, I was like going out and posting flyers all around Long Island City for a couple of days, and I was like sending emails. Even when like me and Nasser Khan did a co-headlining thing at the Pit, and we got in Time Out New York. I didn't mean anything.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why I started focusing on this because I started going on the Mark Maron road. It's like, okay, I started thinking about why do I like stuff. And then I realized that, at least for comedy, if I like some people that like make me laugh and also I kind of connect to in a way. That's why I like Maron so much.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
It's just so natural. It's just like talking to people and like getting them to like kind of just like open up. Yeah. He's another guy. He had Obama on his podcast.
Yeah, that's.
I think that was like one of those podcasting moments where you're just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
He's a comedian. That's a president.
Yeah.
Like,
that's the president talking to a comedian on a podcast.
On a podcast.
Yeah. Really, I mean, to me, that was awesome because it really made the medium of podcasting like real, I think.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, like if you didn't know what a podcast was then, you probably
you definitely
did.
know now.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty awesome.
That's crazy.
So you want to do a comic book?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm working on a book now, and
cool. So is it kind of like, you know, very much like that kind of like high contrast, like black and white style you were telling me about?
Yeah. I work in black and white mainly just because of time and how, you know, it's just real time consuming, and I'm doing everything by myself. The book I'm working on now, I'm working on another strip with another friend of mine. You know Gaston Almonte?
I know the name, but I don't think we've ever met.
Oh, okay. I'll introduce you sometime.
Cool. Yeah, I would. I'd love to hang out with him. If you ever wanted to do the show, tell him.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I'm sure he'd love to do the show.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. So yeah, we're working on a little like comic strip thing together, trying to figure that out. And yeah, just like besides that, it's just like mostly like freelance work and yeah. Lately I've been like super busy with that stuff. So
yeah. Oh, that again, that's a good problem. Good
problem to have. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got this my big project, my longest lasting project, because like this I can do weekly. You know, stand up I can do whenever.
Yeah.
I can book shows, but like I'm trying to write a script. Now, when you do comic books, is there a script? Is there like a script, like a movie script?
Something like that, yeah.
And then you just pair that up to the illustrations you have in your head?
Right. You're basically like a comic book is like you're basically shooting a movie or a TV show, but you're just drawing the scenes instead of shooting it on video.
Okay.
That's basically it.
Oh, excellent. The reason I ask you that is because I feel like I could get I feel like I could effectively storyboard the script at once in my head that I have once it's finished. And then that's much easier to put together than it is to get the resources to shoot a film until. Yeah. So that's something that I've had in the back of my head for a while. Yeah. I also thought that I could do a comic book version of my one-man show. Like I have this hour-long storytelling show that also, goes into some of the stuff I was saying about my dad and, factors heavily. Yeah. So I think that could be a cool companion piece. Because you could buy,
cool,
because you could buy like the album audio version of a show, or you could have like a visual companion, and then be like, if you like this, you should see it in person.
Yeah, and before it's just like pictures of you, like panel after panel, just like lifting your arm.
Yeah.
You just do the stage show.
Well, I was also thinking like you could cut to like the stories I'm telling. It could cut to like those almost like flashbacks kind of a thing.
Okay.
So like
I don't know why I imagine just drawing one man on stage.
That would be hilarious.
Like just panel after panel, just the word bubbles changing. Like hand going up, gesturing to the audience. I don't know. Yeah,
that would be hysterical. Yeah. I also would love to see. I saw a short film once that was similar to this. Like comedians have done like specials in black and white, and they've done like iPhone specials. Did you ever see the movie Waking Life? It's a Richard Linklater movie.
Yeah, some of it.
And or A Scanner Darkly. So that rotoscope. No one's ever done a rotoscope comedy special.
Yeah, that'd be.
I think that would be pretty cool.
That could be cool.
Yeah. I really have been like I was really into animation when I was a kid, and then I've just gone like all in. Like that's my favorite thing.
Oh, that'd be so crazy.
Yeah.
If you shot a whole special and like that weird like rotoscoped animation look, where things are kind of like wobbly.
Yeah, kind of wobbly.
Yeah,
but sort of realistic.
Yeah, it's like this is a little too real. But it's still animation.
Yeah. I love stuff like that. Like just kind of like. Because it's like it feels realistic. Like to me, anime feels very realistic, despite being a cartoon. It still feels like very much like related to the world.
In anime, like specifically with like that kind of storytelling, it's very much more about like building up the drama, right? It's not so much about like whereas in the US, like with comics, it's just like action, Yeah. Whereas in Japan, a lot of those comics are more like the journey to get to the end, where the end is not that battle at the end.
Yeah.
Like the whole Dragon Ball thing. You ever watch Dragon Ball as a kid growing up?
Yeah.
Where like the battles would take like 40 episodes.
Right.
Like 7 episodes is just like one guy like wondering if he should charge up and get ready for battle.
Sure. And then the second episode is him charging up. And the third episode are the speeches before the battle.
Him getting in his own head about like why he's fighting. And then,
exactly. And then the battle starts right as the credits roll for the third episode. Yeah.
And it's a lot like that. I think like it's really interesting to see how people tell stories in different places where it's it's maybe like I feel like in European comics like it's a little more romantic and more about like the art and like the language and here it's like action, get to the point.
Yep.
Where's the punchline? Where's the climax?
Sure.
And where's the cliffhanger? Whereas like in manga it's like a lot about the dialogue, a lot about like how they're getting there, the problems they have getting there and like what they're gonna do when they get there and things like that. It's interesting.
Yeah. It just it connects with me in a way that I didn't think I would allow myself to feel again, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. I got one other thing I want to ask you about, because I'm getting married in about a year, so the idea that I'm going to have a
Congrats.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So the idea that I'm going to have a kid is not too far off. So tell me about when you knew you were going to have a kid and when your son was first born, because I very much so have always lived with this kind of fear of having a child's impact on my life and my own ability to raise a kid. So tell me, what can you tell me about what that time was like for you?
Like when I found out that my wife was pregnant?
Yeah, when you found out your wife was pregnant, and then when your son was born, what were you going through?
Yeah, that time was a pretty crazy time in my life. Like it was about a year after we got married, my wife became pregnant. I remember that. I mean, I think you'll remember that moment that you find out forever. I was getting ready to go to work that morning, and then my wife, she was like late on her period or whatever, and she took the pregnancy test, and she kind of like hobbles out of the bathroom, like, what's going on? She's like, what does this mean? Like she shows me the thing. I'm like, she's like, am I pregnant? Like, it looks like you're pregnant. And from there I was like, well, I gotta go. Let me know if you need it. No, I'm kidding. Right. But it was.
I just got to go process this.
Yeah, it's like, I'll be back in a few hours. Yeah, but it was just like this weird, like surreal moment where like time just stopped. I was like, oh my God, like there's gonna be a third person that I'm responsible for. Yeah, it was crazy, but that's pretty much how I found out. But like that whole process, it just kind of happens, and you know how to deal with it as it happens. If that makes sense, I don't know how to explain, because like that's a big thing. Like I would always ask people, like, what do I need to know about this, and what can you tell me about this and that, whatever. And there's really like
you can't plan in advance for it, but when
you're never ready for it.
But you just know what to do as it occurs.
Yeah, I kind of lost what the question was. Exactly.
No, you're answering my question. So you find out she's pregnant, and you're excited. This something that was
super excited.
Oh, great. I mean, I imagine.
Yeah.
So and then how do you feel about your life now? I imagine positively, of course, but how has your son enriched or changed your life?
I mean, it's positively all the way, but it's changed, not so much changed my life, but added a new perspective to my life, because like I see a lot of myself in my son, and I see the influences that that he gets from me. And like just the way he views the world, and things like that. It's like an extra weight, but like a good weight, right? Because it's
right.
Like because now there's like meaning to everything you do. Literally everything you do, your kid sees. So everything becomes meaningful, and everything is like has a purpose, and it's interesting. Yeah, I don't know how to really explain that.
No, I'm picking up the. Everything that you think you're not saying, I'm hearing. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So like everything suddenly had purpose, right? So like when he sees you doing nothing, when you're just like doing nothing on the sofa, it's like I'm always thinking of like what am I doing, and like what's he gonna see, and you're always conscious of that kind of thing. And it's cool, man. It's a big learning process. It was a big you're always learning. Like with me and my wife, that was the biggest thing, is like how we interact with each other was something that I didn't think about before the kid, right? Because a lot of times, like I think people, like myself included, before you have the kid, you're thinking once the kid arrives, he's on the pedestal now, and everyone else takes the back seat,
right?
Whereas being in a marriage, being in a relationship, I've learned that it's the opposite, where if I like my relationship with my wife is going to be the greatest factor in how I'm going to be raising my kid. Mm-hmm. Like if I'm good to my wife, then I'm going to be good to my kid.
Right.
Whereas like she, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like a kid, like in one sense, like the kid takes second place to the relationship you have with your wife.
Right.
In my case.
Yeah. And they're kind of symbiotic. Like one
exactly.
feeds
like one
the
doesn't,
other.
Yeah. One's not
they don't exist
go
independently of each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And long story, it's like, I kind of don't know what it's like not having a kid now. You know, like you just kind of forget what that was like. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know what it's like to be single now. It's like a weird foreign thing to me.
Yeah.
It's like, was I that person? I guess I was at some point, but now it's you just become that person. You just become dad, and you're like, oh, all right.
Yeah. No, that kind of makes sense, because I think about the way my life was when I first moved here, and like all of the absolute like struggles and just like dread and sadness I had just trying to get my life established. And now that it is, I'm just, and it's maybe an eager part because I'm eager to, focus on the good times. But yeah, that makes sense. I know that's a very heavy question to hit you with towards the end of this. But
I mean, that's who I am, right? I'm dad.
Yeah.
Like it's funny because like that's how I started comedy, is like as dad. And the funniest thing is that in coming up, like none of my friends were dads at the time, and now like as we're getting a little older, I'm 35 now. Like a lot of my friends in comedy are having kids and starting a family now. So they're like, oh, great, now we're all in the same place. So it's interesting. Yeah, it's
And your son was with you in Japan?
Yeah.
Was there anything that he kind of reacted to that you kind of had that similar thing of like, where it was kind of like interesting to see the way he was reacting to something that was probably foreign to him?
Yeah, like when we went to visit the temples, and like on the we hiked this, those torii gates in Kyoto, those orange gates. We hiked that. I didn't know how he would behave there because it's kind of a long walk, and there was a fair amount of complaining and stopping. And,
sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool seeing like the afterwards part. Or like after the experience, he was like, "Oh, that was so cool." And I was like, "Yeah, wasn't it? That was pretty neat." Sorry, we got into it a little bit, but that was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
it was a good time, and he was just like super into like all that like the comics and video games. We're both pretty big video game nerds.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Oh yeah. So he'll probably need to go back when he's like a teenager and he can play like M-rated games and stuff.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
Oh, that's great, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh man, I literally want to just, if I could just figure out a way to get to Japan every couple of years for the rest of my life, I'd probably
how crazy would that be?
That would be amazing. I was talking to the lead singer of a pop punk band named Alistair that I love. And they're super big in Japan. So they really? Just did a tour over there. They've done a bunch of tours over there. So he was telling me these just great stories about being on tour in Japan with this big band over there named Ellegarden. And just like, it just sounds so great. Like I want to start a band again with the goal of becoming big in Japan so that I could tour over there.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah. And like their music scene is so there's so much cool stuff to discover in their music scene. Like J-pop, everyone focuses on K-pop right now because BTS are so big. But Japan's like punk and like rock and like heavy rock scene. There's some really interesting stuff happening. I've become obsessed with this band called the Winking Owl. I kind of I would describe them as like Paramore if they had more interesting guitars.
Yeah.
So they're like the like more rock side of pop punk. And their lead singer, she has this beautiful voice, and all of their songs are just super catchy. Like literally every time I listen to it, I discover a new song of theirs. I'm just like, holy shit! It's just perfect. Oh, wow. It's just a perfectly executed song. Yeah. All this stuff is on you. All their stuff's on. A lot of their stuff's on YouTube. They got a new album coming out next month. I hope they sell it in the U.S. iTunes store. Because I'm old, I still buy music.
Man, I haven't bought music in so long. It's just like Spotify, Pandora, YouTube.
Yeah. That's how I sample.
Yeah. If it's not on there, I'm like, I guess I'm not listening. Yeah,
well, so when I got to Tokyo for the first time and I saw that there's a Tower Records, that my mind.
Wasn't that so weird?
I'd never been in a Tower Records before. They
had one here for a long time, and
it was gone by the time I got here.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it that long ago? Fuck.
Yeah, they closed in the U.S. when I was a kid, and then I was like, "Wait, Tower Records is in Tokyo," and my fiance totally didn't get why I was so excited until I explained it to her later. And because I like to say everywhere we travel, I try to find like if there's like a punk scene or a pop punk scene, and I was like, I wonder if there's like a J-punk scene, and there's an entire aisle labeled J-punk.
Really?
And then like I went in, and you remember when you used to have to scan the barcode of a CD and put the headphones on?
They had that?
They had that.
Oh, that's crazy.
It was so fun. And then an idol group did an in-store performance. There's like 8 people on stage. It was so gnarly.
Was it crowded in the store when they were performing?
Oh yeah. Yeah. There was like it was
that
like
just happened during the time you were shopping, and they just
I was
on stage, and
I was shopping. This band starts performing. Suddenly, all of these teenage girls in school uniforms are suddenly, and they have like those light sticks that they shake and then do the like.
They have dances for the audience.
That I think is cool. I went to the robot. My 30th birthday when I was there, we went to the robot restaurant, and they passed those out. And my fiance and I are doing not just the like shake it to the rhythm, but also the kind of like swooping kind of thing. You can't see, listener, but I'm making a swooping action like I'm holding up a sword. And there was some older Japanese guy across the table was like, how do they know? I like stuff like that.
That's funny. Yeah, we didn't get to do the robot restaurant. I've seen pictures, and that place looks crazy.
Before you leave, I'll show you a picture that's in my living room. That's from that place. Dude, this has been awesome. I feel like we could do in like another hour on. We'll have to do another hour on just Japan at some point.
Dude, that would be great. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I would love to do that. What can we plug before we get out?
Not really. There's a show that I'm producing. It's called Get Down Comedy. It's at 2A Bar in the Lower East Side. That's on June 7th.
Okay, and it's monthly.
It's a monthly. Yeah.
Awesome.
First Friday of the month.
Yeah. First Friday of the month, 2A Bar.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, if it changes by the time I release this episode, let me know, and I'll make sure people know.
Cool.
Awesome. Thanks for talking to me, man.
Dude, thanks for having me.
This has been awesome. Great. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
This was a great conversation. Thank you so much, Alex, for taking the time to chat with me. Every time I get nostalgic about my time in Japan, it just really makes me think about how often I want to get back there. So either if this podcast or my band or my stand-up can get me big in Japan, that might be my career goal for the foreseeable future. I love living in America, but if I could get big in Japan, I think that would be pretty fun also. So thank you again, Alex, and I hope to see you in the future, man. I appreciate you coming over and doing the show. I also want to give a shout out to my supporter on Patreon at the awesome producer level. Mary Beth Mooney, thank you so much for your support of the show. I really appreciate you being there for me at that level on Patreon. If you guys want to check out the reward tiers that are available, you can go to patreon.com/awesomedisaster. All of the stuff I post there is not going anywhere else, and I'm trying to put a lot of hard work and time into making sure that content, which sounds gross saying it like that the stuff I put there is valuable to you. So if you feel like you want to contribute, or even if you just want to share it, I would certainly appreciate it very much. And if you enjoyed the show and want to tell a friend, we are on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to leave a rating or a review on Apple, that helps other people find the show, and you can add us to your favorite playlists on Stitcher. These are all little things that help the show grow organically. So thank you guys very much for listening. I appreciate all of you, and I will see you next week between Awesome and Disaster. Take care, everybody.